Yeah, I'm sure you've seen just this week that a guy was serving as a superintendent of schools, and come to find out he was also a registered voter in Maryland.
Yeah.
And I mean, we are told over and over and over that's impossible.
Yeah.
It can't happen.
Yeah.
Well, it does happen, and it's a high-profile case. I mean, how do you rectify that? We always claim that everything makes it impossible, and yet one guy we find and he's registered.
Yeah. So I always tell people, be careful what you ask your federal government to do, because the federal government passed this law, the National Voter Registration Act, which has really tied clerks' hands in a lot of ways in cleaning up their voter rolls. So what I've been working on as the chairman of the Elections Committee is giving those clerks tools so that they can get those folks off the voter rolls if they've moved or if they've died. In my second year in the legislature, I sponsored and passed a bill that if somebody hasn't voted for 4 years or had any voting activity for 4 years, the clerk is allowed to send them a notice, and if it comes back undeliverable or doesn't come back at all, it starts a clock to take them off the voter rolls. We also, this year, my committee passed a bill that allows the clerks to use online obituaries, because before they could only use the newspaper, and a lot of people just aren't putting stuff in the newspaper anymore. So you take them off the voter rolls. But there's more we could do. One thing I'd like to do is, if you were to lose your mind and move to Texas for some reason and you go get a driver's license there, Texas calls Kansas and to the DMV and says, hey, cancel their driver's license because they've moved. There's absolutely no reason that the DMV can't share that data with the Secretary of State's office, so we can also take them off the voter rolls if they move. And you know who knows if you're alive or dead is your credit card company and your bank. So I would like to, the publicly available part of our voter rolls, because our voter rolls are publicly available, I'd like to contract with those credit rating agencies and just send them the data and say, hey, which of these people are dead? So we can take them off the voter rolls. Because, in Leavenworth, I don't know how it is here in Liberal, but in Leavenworth, when I go knocking on doors, I'm knocking with the voter rolls. I go to the door, it's the 2 people who live there now, the 2 people who lived there before them, the 2 people who lived there before them, because people don't think to change the registration when they move. So we've got to help that along and clean up our voter rolls.
Yeah, I'm going to let Jim, because Jim is a former county commissioner, but I know we were doing an event not too long ago, and he was going over our local ones and saw a bunch of names. I'm going to let him share that, but I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to let him talk to you about that experience. But I never understood, you got to file a certificate of death. Why can't a copy of the certificate of death just be given to the county clerks?
Yeah, so if they die in Kansas, the Department of Health and Environment gives notice to the Secretary of State's office, and the Secretary of State office notifies the appropriate clerk to get them off the voter rolls. But if they don't die in Kansas, then we don't get that notification. And it used to be that we were getting from the Social Security Department or agency, we were getting a list of people who died so that we could remove people from voter rolls. But for the last 4 years, we haven't been getting that. Now, Scott Schwab and the Secretary of State's office has been doing a lot of work with the Trump administration to kind of restart that. And there's a lot in the news right now about, us sharing our voter roll information with them so that we could get that stuff cleaned up. But there are a lot of other ways that, there are a lot of other kind of avenues that we can use to help this process along. Just identify people who've moved, identify people who have died, and get them off the voter rolls.
So Jim, you want to share that experience you had?
Well, I think cleaning up the voter rolls, everybody assumes that, they are, pretty much up to date. Well, here, I don't know, it's been a year or so ago, I don't remember what the issue was, but I got a list of a portion of, I think maybe it was just in my district, I don't remember, but anyway, I noticed that there were 3 individuals on there that I knew personally that were on there. One of them died in 2007. I think the other one was maybe in 2008 and the other one in 2010. And I thought, why in the world are they still on there? That's, and I mean, there wasn't any reason. And but I know my dad's name was on there for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years before it finally disappeared. But I'm kind of like you. It looks to me like, when you're dead, and there ought to be some communication between you know, the mortician or whoever it is, and, you know, that death certificate, and that a copy of that goes to the county clerk or you know, I don't know who works that up, but that extra copy needs to go to the county clerk, and they take it off right then.
Yeah.
There's no need of waiting 2 or 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.